From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up! Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
and this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill
One more corner pocket.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi.
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! What is up, everybody? It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar Grill, Tallahassee, Florida. Coming up on today's show, practice observations and giving you some winners, hopefully, for your picks for the week. Corey and I start our weekly competition now. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill in Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com. CP because it's called Corner Pocket. Tallybar.com. Check out the website. Lunch specials every single day of the week, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Monday through Friday. It is Wednesday. Go get you a pressed ham and Swiss sandwich, everybody. Grilled and caramelized ham, topped with melted Swiss, pressed and toasted to perfection, served with horsey sauce and pickles. Kind of like a quasi-Cuban, Corey's called it once or twice on this program. Right, Corey?
Correct. It's their version of a Cuban. It's missing something, though. I forget what all's in a Cuban, but it's missing one little ingredient. Might be a big ingredient.
Well,
I'm not sure.
The roast pork. I mean, I guess.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, so it's a big ingredient, but still, it's awesome. It's really good. It's better than any Cuban I've ever had, even though it's not a Cuban.
That's right. And then tomorrow, Thursday night bingo starts at 7 o'clock. Test your bingo skills, win drinks and prizes. Live music Friday, we think, Corey, after the live show with you and Jeff Cameron.
I don't think so.
Okay, good, cool.
So we're not opening for anyone this time. It's just going to be Jeff and I straight, just killing it for an hour.
Pre-game show at Hotel Indigo, Warchant Game Day, presented by Zaxby's. That will start at 10 a.m., 1 hour pre-game show, 10 to 11. Head over there. You don't want to set up a tailgate at noon for a Georgia Tech game. Show up, drink, eat, watch Jeff and Tom break it down, let you know what the game's going to end up being. 24 points right now. It's swelled up to. Florida State's a favorite, Corey. 24 points. We're back.
When was the last time they were a favorite like that over an ACC team? Could you harbor a guess? 16?
I could maybe hazard a guess.
Golly, come on, gang.
Come on, Corey.
I did that as a joke this time.
Oh,
I'm gonna tell. Well, I didn't, but I should have passed it off like I did.
Okay.
But yeah, you can't even hazard a guess. I would say 16 was the last time they were that big a favorite in an ACC game.
I like Duke. Come on,
Ooh,
Duke.
maybe Duke COVID year. Man, Florida State couldn't have been favored by that much against anyone in the COVID year. Yeah, man, I don't know. That's crazy.
That might be
again. So Brent Key came out on Tuesday. He met with the media, the Georgia Tech interim coach, who might end up getting the job. Who knows? And he said that Jeff Sims has a sprained foot, but then he also said that two other quarterbacks will definitely play in that game. He said they're both Zach. There's a freshman that hasn't played at all this season, but his first name's Zach. And then the backup that played on Thursday night. He said both Zachs will get into the game. So take that for what it's worth, folks.
I think Zach Gibson might be the guy that got thrown in there against the Hoos.
Yeah, Gibson is the backup quarterback that ran out of bounds with no time left on the clock instead of throwing a ball. So that wasn't great. And then the other kid I think has been hurt all year, but it's now, and I guess you can't burn his red shirt anyway because they only got 4 games left, so he might get a look too.
He's a ginger. His name is Zach Pyron, 6'3", 213.
Oh, okay, all right.
From Pinson, Alabama. Pinson Valley. That's actually a pretty solid program, man.
Okay, he's a true freshman, right?
He looks like it. Yep,
okay.
Looks like it. So.
All right. So he, Brent Key, at least acted like that. Both of those guys will play on Saturday.
All right. Maybe do you think we'll get some insight from Chris Winkie when we speak to him later today?
I don't know that the whole premise of that setup for the Zoom is to ask him about his quarterbacks. I think it's more about his time at Florida State and the last time he was in Doak and all that. I assume he's been here like we talked about maybe he came in the spring for one of those flag football things they would do at halftime. Yeah. But the last game that he was here for, where he was competing in one way or the other, was the 2000 Florida game.
Oh yeah. Which
basically wrapped up the Heisman for him. And that was a cool game. Snoop Minnis had a huge game. I think he hit Atrus Bell for a touchdown early in that game. And it sent Florida State to the national championship game where they lost to Oklahoma.
We don't like to talk about that game around here.
Sorry.
Zach Gibson graded out at 51.5, which shockingly bigger. If you would have given me 51.5 as the over-under, I would have said under.
Way under, yeah.
Way under. Crazy thing, though, is Florida State's 4-3. They are 2-3 in conference. Georgia Tech is 3-4. They, too, if I'm not mistaken, are 2-3 and are in sole possession of second place in the Coastal. And they're a 23-point underdog. Yeah. It's amazing.
24, you said.
24, sorry. 24, yeah. Correct. 24 is correct. That is the number. Practice on Tuesday looked all right. They're playing Georgia Tech. I'm not too concerned about it. There was good moments, mostly good. Nothing really bad per se. Trey Benson, really nice catch. They were outside doing a little 11-on-11. They put a backer on him. I think I'm going to ask Mike Norvell about how he just gets dudes so open out of the backfield. It's pretty crazy. But it looked like Jordan actually overthrew Trey. But, man, Trey with a great effort kind of stayed on his feet, lunged with one hand, and tipped it to himself, kept it alive, made a catch. It was a thing of beauty. Kentron caught a ball from Jordan that was just absolutely beautifully placed. I mean, just the trajectory on it just landed right. Ran the breadbasket for him, over coverage. He had two really good catches, Kentron. Defensively, nothing really stood out all that much. Maybe the red zone stuff they did in period 3. So period 3, everybody, as we've talked about, that's like the first team period they'll do. They'll go 11-on-11. It's usually some kind of scenario. It's a situational drill where it's 11-on-11. Usually they'll start with the ball on their own 35. They'll be down 2. They got to get into field goal range. But since they've been struggling in the red zone, 109th in the country out of 131 teams, period 3 was devoted to strictly kind of like a red zone type moment. I don't know if they were actually on the 20, but they were actually either on the 20 or further in. I didn't see the first rep, but I think Ira said that Jordan Travis scored, ran it in. But the next two kind of possessions, or at least I think it was 3 plays, they held them to a field goal. So they stood firm, the defense. I don't know if they tried to go tunnel screen on one play to a tight end, but I thought they did some crosser with Johnny and another receiver. Defense did really, really, really good job. Adam Fuller ran out and was happy with his cornerbacks for picking up the switch, but no touchdown throws or runs after the first one from Jordan. Defense did well. Kickers made both their kicks. They were 28 and I think 24 were the field goals they hit in that drill. And then in the actual period that's devoted strictly to kicking field goals, they went a perfect 4 for 4.
Okay. So, all right.
I would think, Corey, you're at the point now, if you're Mike Norvell, I don't know how many guys start off with a clean slate here the second half of the season. You obviously have to, what happened these last 7 games was real life. It mattered. I really think you can kind of go into this, especially starting off with Georgia Tech, a game that we do not I don't foresee it coming down to field goals, but you can probably manage this and get your guys out there and see how they're going to kick it, man, because as bad as Miami looks, I think Florida State will probably be 5.5, 6-point favorite, I think, against Miami. And just you're probably going to have to make a field goal or 2 in that game. Maybe not in the fourth quarter, but it sure would be nice to maybe be up by 7 or 6 and go up by 9 or 10 at some point in that game, be a 2-possession game. I would think with the way they've performed in practice here, man, you can kind of get back to managing Ryan Fitzgerald as a, pretty decent kicker, 75-80% field goal kicker that he kind of was going into the season. And I know that will obviously help out their red zone numbers, right, Corey? If they at least have a field goal guy, a kicker they can trust making something from 35 and in.
Well, yeah, sure. It changes the whole complexion of how you call a play on 3rd and 11 or something. Like, you're not going to be too risky if you know you got 3 points automatically. But, man, I don't know. I don't know that you'll ever be, unless he makes the last 8 field goals of the season, I don't know that you'll ever go into a game thinking, okay, we're good. We're good now. We know we got a kicker that we can trust in the fourth quarter against Miami. Like, it's such a completely different, making some kicks in the second half or the second quarter against Georgia Tech. I don't know that means anything if you've got a 6-point lead in the fourth quarter against Miami. And you're trying to put the game away. I just don't. And I'm not saying it doesn't mean anything about Ryan Fitzgerald. I don't know if it means anything about any kicker. So it'd be great to give him some confidence. For sure. It'd be great to have him watch some balls go through the middle of those 2 posts. But at the end of the day, until you do it in a moment like that, you haven't done it in a moment like that. So it's hard to think that that's going to happen. But, hey, man, there's nowhere to go but up, Fitzy. You're 1 for your last 1, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
man, it was a 47-yard bomb. Yeah. And he made his extra points. So yeah, man, I think in this game, sure, it'd be nice to have him kick a couple field goals. It'd be better if he was kicking 8 extra points.
Fair.
Let's get you 8 extra points, Fitzy. That'll get the blood flowing. Get you feeling good going into Miami.
Yeah, even if you were to make 2 kicks against Georgia Tech, I don't know how much better that makes me feel about him kicking a 40-yarder in the fourth quarter against Miami. But certainly opening drive, you do such a great job on it. Maybe if you do get stalled out on the 20 and it's 4th and 5, I feel like, all right, man, let's walk away with points on the first drive of the game down in Miami, 7:30 primetime game. Because if he doesn't make your kicks against Georgia Tech, you're probably going into that Miami game managing it the way you did against Clemson and NC State, where it's like, we don't have a kicker. Nope, unless we absolutely have no other choice with time ending in the first half. At that point, yes. So, I don't think it'll be too much about clutchness in terms of what he can do in the fourth quarter against Florida, Miami. But certainly, man,
it would be good to get him. You're right, because any points are good early on in a game if you have a nice drive. And you think about that NC State game, instead of throwing on, I know Malik should have caught the ball and then Johnny Wilson should have caught the next one. But if you have a kicker you trust, wouldn't it have been nice to have a 3-0 lead right there? Just get those 3 points. And then, hey, man, now you've got a 20-3 lead at halftime. And guess what, Aslan? You end up winning the game 20-19. Yeah. Those 3 points, the 3 points in the first quarter would have been mighty big in Raleigh. So it's not, you're right, it's not all about fourth quarter kicks. Every kick that he takes, there's going to be pressure on Ryan Fitzgerald every kick he takes for the rest of the season. Yeah. Because he's literally kicking for his job. He's kicking for his career at Florida State. If he struggles anymore at all, they're going to the portal. They might be going anyway, but they will definitely go to the portal if he struggles at all. So he knows his career at Florida State is on the line. So there's a pretty enormous amount of pressure on that kid already. Hopefully he handles it well and makes some kicks.
I know you did a story earlier in the week about the red zone sort of stuff. I mean, were there any numbers that stood out, or is there anything that you think has kind of been a common theme for why Florida State hasn't been nearly as efficient and effective in the red zone this year as they were last year, which was one of the things they could really hang their hat on and feel good about?
Yeah, I mean, they finished they finished with 32 straight conversions in the red zone last year. Most of them touchdowns, obviously, because Fitzgerald only kicked 10 field goals. So most of them, I guess Grotehouse kicked a few, but most of them were touchdowns. This year, I think a lot of it has to do with, it started the very first, well, I guess LSU was the second game of the season, but going for the fade to Pittman instead of taking the 3 points, which I didn't mind it at the time. You were gifted that ball at the 2-yard line or 5-yard line or whatever, but it just seemed to cause like a waterfall of bad decisions and bad moments, from the fade to Pittman that didn't work. Like, you're throwing a fade to your short. I mean, I know he makes tough catches, but that was it's just a bizarre play. You needed 2 yards and you threw it into the end. Anyway, that was 6 weeks ago, Clark. Get it together. Quit lamenting that. Then, and then the pitch, the quick pitch to Trayshawn Ward in that game, and those are 2 right away where you just completely melted down, and it's just kind of gotten worse from there. And it also doesn't even take into account, Aslan, how many times they've gone for it on 4th down from like the 23. Or like, Jordan Travis, the interception in Raleigh to end the game. That wasn't a red zone failure. That ball was at the 22. So that doesn't even count. Like, if the red zone was from the 25 and in, it would be even worse. They might be the worst in the country. As far as what's gone wrong, man, I don't know. I honestly don't know. Is it just not having Jashawn Corbin? Because that's really the only difference between last year and this year as far as red zone offense. That kid was somebody that ran hard, ran tough, and they just, he would get you some tough yards on 3rd and 3 at the 10, or 3rd and goal from the 1. And it hasn't really been there this year. But yeah, I don't know. There's no real, Norvell said it was penalties and it was lack of execution. It was basically mistakes at inopportune times, which is, I know it's the truth, but it's also coach speak. There's no like 1 or 2,
Could they be a victim of their own success? Like, has Jordan looked so good throwing the ball that maybe when they do get close, it no longer is like this real sort of dedication and focus on running the ball well when they get in there? It's kind of like, we got him and we got 14. We can probably bail out.
I think I hadn't even thought about that until now, but yeah, because what they've done, and Iris brought this up, we talked about this last week after the Clemson game, when Jordan, what we don't like about Jordan is when on 4th down, he treats a 4th and 2 like it's 3rd or it's like 2nd and 7 in the second quarter. You've got to treat those plays with the magnitude that they deserve. But also, like, a 3rd and 7 from the 10-yard line isn't the same as a 3rd and 7 from the 50. So, and it just feels like maybe they call the game the same way they do when the ball's at the 50 as at the ball at the 7. And it's just a different game inside the 10. And I don't understand, in my opinion, now that you say that, I don't understand what 4 wides from the 7-yard line just isn't going to work a lot, man, unless your quarterback is going to run it. You know what I mean? And I think that's what has to be exploited the rest of this season. If you get Jordan Travis at the 5-yard line on a run-pass option on 2nd down, not 3rd down, on 2nd down or 1st down, give him a run-pass option. And I'm not talking about an RPO. I'm talking about a bootleg, a rollout to the right, some sort of draw, even a quarterback draw. I just think that has to be implemented much more now that he should be as healthy as he's been since LSU. I just think that's what needs to happen in the red zone. And I think, man, it's, having a quarterback that can run inside the 10-yard line is a huge weapon, man. Ask the Florida State defense with DJ Uiagalelei. Come on, man.
Probably don't have to say it again. I don't think we'll play. I think Clay Klubnik will probably take over, right? And are they really going to ride with him? I'm telling you, man. I don't want to be anti-ACC guy. Everybody, I think Clemson would get housed by Georgia or Ohio State or Alabama.
Yes, I agree. I do. Yes, I agree. I think their offense, and that's what was so frustrating about that game. But we're past it. It's Georgia Tech week. We're on to the Jackets. But I don't think he's a good quarterback. I think he's an average quarterback that's had a decent season. But I think you saw what he was in that Syracuse game. I think you saw what he was in the first half against Boston College. I think you saw what he was in the first half against Georgia Tech. Not good. This other kid might be special. Who knows? He didn't look great in that scenario against Syracuse, but that's a tough scenario to be thrown into. And he might end up being awesome. But I think, their defense is good, clearly. But, man, they're going to face an offense that can move the ball a little bit, and you have to match an Ohio State or I guess in Alabama maybe score for score with that kid. I don't see it happening. I think they would get beat pretty convincingly in a playoff, but they certainly would deserve to get to a playoff if they go undefeated. But yeah, I think if you're thinking about the potential of this Clemson team, I don't think you're reaching your ceiling with that kid at quarterback.
Well, I don't think they got the time to get that kid broken in, but I don't know. Maybe next year when they go into their camp or whatever, that kid will be able to take over the job. But whatever, it's not Wake Up Tigers. Let's give out some winners, Corey. It is winning season, everybody. Head over to mybookie.ag. Put your winners in. You pick winners every single week. You're not getting paid, though. You got to go to mybookie.ag, use the promo code WARCHANT, and your deposit will instantly be matched dollar for dollar right instantly there for your viewing and enjoyment, gaming pleasure. Use the promo code WARCHANT over at MyBookie. We're going to do 3 games each. We'll keep tabs on from here on out. We got enough data, Corey. We know what's going on out there.
Okay.
My 3, I'm going to go with Michigan State. They're getting 23 points on the road in Ann Arbor against my guy Jim Harbaugh. My children are fighting, Mel and Jim. He'll keep it close enough, man. 23, that's a lot of points to give. Nebraska coming off a bye week, I think. They're getting 7.5 at home against Illinois. By the way, the Michigan State game is at Ann Arbor. Nebraska's catching 7.5 at home versus Illinois. Maybe Illinois is getting a little too big for their britches. Mickey Joseph's got the Huskers believing. They'll keep that close. And then Wake's giving 4 at Louisville. In Wake we trust. I'm a big Dave Clawson guy. I think Wake will cover that easily. What are your 3 picks?
Well, yeah, you took one of mine.
Oh, sorry.
So we're going to go with it. So we're only going 2. We have 2 different ones this time because I was going to take Wake too. Man, Penn State, I know, is not nearly as good as Ohio State. I get it. Ohio State puts up a ton of points on everyone. They have a great offense. But Penn State getting 16 at home, that's just a huge number. And Penn State's a decent team. They have some pretty good players. Man, I'm taking Virginia. Virginia is a home underdog to Miami. Okay. How is that a thing? Like, how is that? If you watch those 2 teams play on this past week, Miami's going to be playing a backup quarterback on the road. In Virginia, I think their defense is salty, man, and a bonus one. Uh-oh. Just because it's who I am by nature.
This doesn't count in the official standings.
This doesn't count.
Heads up, yeah.
but Florida's getting 22.5. That seems like a crazy high number, man. Georgia has had some rough moments. That game is always weird. It's not like Georgia typically goes down there and dominates that team. So here's my two options for you. You can either take the Gators plus 22.5, which is a much safer pick, or just put, I don't know, man, $100 on the money line. Florida pulls off the upset of the year. Oh, wow. Bet $100, you're going to win $1,400, folks, on a $100 bet. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. So those are my picks.
MyBookie.ag, use that promo code WARCHANT. The whole Miami thing, it's crazy, Corey, because it was revealed like Tuesday afternoon that Van Dyke is going to be out and Garcia's in. But the line that we just used there from MyBookie, that's with that news baked in, man. Miami is still somehow a 2-point favorite. Man, that's crazy to think. And is there any look ahead you think possible for Florida State? I think Mike Norvell does a really good job of keeping everybody focused. I think Derek McClendon was asked about that, and I think I gave a pretty convincing answer. I know this program isn't in a place to start looking past opponents. I mean, that might be your answer there, but I mean, you're a 23-point favorite against, or 24 Aslan, 24 against Georgia Tech. Any concern that Florida State could be looking past Tech and focusing on Miami?
No.
Okay.
Only because they're coming off a bye and it's a 3-game losing streak. If they were 7-0, I'd be like, yeah,
Pure
man,
trap.
they could be looking ahead. But no, you're 4-3 and you've lost 3 in a row. How could you possibly dare look past? I mean, you got to win here in front of you if you play well. If you look past it, Who are you to look past anybody? Talking to you, Florida State players. Love you. You guys are good players. You play hard. You haven't accomplished much of anything in your college careers, so you don't need to be looking past. And what are you even looking? It's not like it's the game of the century waiting next weekend. 1 versus 2, high noon in the Orange Bowl. No, man, it's going to be a 5-3 team and like a 3-5 team. So, no, they better not be looking past anyone. And I think you buried the lead, Aslan. We haven't talked about it all. We've talked about this kid a lot. But you got to see Fabien out at practice. Right?
Yeah.
So you're bullish. I'm going to guess that you're bullish that he's going to be playing on Saturday.
Maybe not. He was there, but ... we can't maybe jump too much into it. Don't want to get in trouble. Although, what are they going to do? Not let me come to practice and I get to sleep in 2 more days out of the week?
Yeah, but we
on you, Mike.
it. We wrote about it on our message boards. He had a one-on-one opportunity against one. I can't even remember who the lineman was. Maybe Emmanuel?
Yeah.
And he whipped him pretty darn convincingly.
Yeah, I mean, there's video of him practicing. I mean, it's up on the website. Check it out, everybody. He looks good to me, man. And if he feels fine, absolutely. I think we all agree he'll be on some kind of pitch count. But there were moments in that practice where he was off to the side doing some kind of individual work. But that could obviously just be them managing his injury, getting his body back in, game shape, kind of easing him into things. I do feel good. Again, I think him being on the Coop show on Monday was also a really good sign.
Yeah.
The fact that he came and hung out and talked about things. He almost slipped up and said that he got surgery, which that's crazy.
Well, Papuchis did say he had
Did
surgery.
he?
So, yeah, he said that on Monday. So, yes, he's coming off some sort of surgery/procedure from, I guess, right after the LSU game. So, this was the timetable. Like, I think he thought maybe Clemson. So, it was a week. They I guess with a bye week coming right after Clemson, they decided to, be cautious with it. But, yeah, man, I think it's on schedule since whatever that was. And, I always thought, and I told people this a lot with other players, is when they start appearing in the one-on-one sections of our practice observations, that's a really good sign. And Fabien Lovett did. So I would be at this point, I would be, literally, not stunned. That's too strong. I would be very, very surprised if he didn't play at least some snaps on Saturday. Hopefully you don't have to play him for too many. Hopefully you're not having to grind out a game in the fourth quarter against this bunch, which literally has Georgia Tech, even with Jeff Sims, by the way, was like I think the 4th worst offense in the Power 5 in the country, averaging like 16 points a game.
Worse than Jimbo, huh?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think they're actually behind Jimbo. I'm going to look that up. Hold on a second. I'm going to look that up.
By the way, Jimbo suspended 3 dudes, and apparently I think all of them were freshmen from this highly touted 2022 class that they bought. So that's going great right now. Man, I need to go talk to my guy, see how he's doing. As Corey looks that up, we'll be wrapping up the show here. Only other thing, I am starting to look at bowl projections. We can look at bowl projections. Florida State's got 4 wins. They just need 2 more. They got Georgia Tech Saturday. That should be 5. And then Miami certainly looks very ripe now for the picking. If not, you got shots against Syracuse, Louisiana, and Florida to get that 6th win. But we think they'll probably have way more than that. Right now, one of the projections has Florida State, CBS Sports, playing Utah in San Diego for the Holiday Bowl, December 28th.
Okay.
Sign me up.
You'd be all over that.
Woo.
You and I are going to have a good old time out in San Diego, man. That'd be awesome. So, yeah, A&M is 109th in the country in scoring offense at 21.9 points per game. Checking in at 125, Georgia Tech has scored 12 touchdowns in 7 games. 10 field goals, too. Hey, 10 field goals. They are averaging a robust 16.1 points per game. The teams below them, Temple, New Mexico State, Iowa. Iowa has scored 10 touchdowns. And I bet one of those was defensive, probably 2.
It definitely was. This past week they scored a defensive touchdown against Ohio State.
So Iowa and Colorado are the only 2 other Power 5 teams in the country with worse offenses than Georgia Tech. So literally you need to be up by 3 scores, 4 scores in the fourth quarter, and you don't need to be having to play. And Fabien Lovett in the fourth quarter of this game. This is a bad offense that might not even have their starting quarterback. So you need to take care of business.
Yeah, Georgia Tech fired their coach. Colorado fired their coach as well. And that's crazy, man. There was no good way to ask it, but I was hoping maybe Mike would give us some insight on it. But the Chip Long trajectory is just wild because he went from Memphis, pretty sure that was his first offensive coordinator job, and from there he goes to Notre Dame. He's at Notre Dame for 2 years. They go to the playoff in one of those years, and then he ends up, I think, at Tulane maybe after that. Like, you'd figure you go to Notre Dame, you help take them to the playoff, you're probably getting a head coaching job somewhere. Just didn't work out for him. And then he kind of clings on to this Georgia Tech job. Winky ends up there, too. Not a good place to be right now. And Jeff Collins, man, he's a defensive-minded guy. That offensive, what's holding him back, it sounds like, if you're dropping those kind of stats with them being that low, that's bizarre. And then you find yourself, probably want to know when the AFCA convention is so you can go find another job somewhere. Crazy how
it's
that
crazy
works.
that they're 3-4 with that kind of offense.
Yeah.
It's crazy they're not 1-6. But yeah, man, they're the worst offense in the ACC. They're the worst offense that Florida State will see all season. So yeah, Florida State needs to. It would be a very, very bad sign if Georgia Tech comes out and gets 250 yards in the first half.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, can't have that. By the way, Virginia is 123rd in the country in scoring offense.
And they've got an offensive guru and a really good quarterback and a really good wide receiver. How did you mess that up, Tony Elliott?
Yeah, man. And the quarterback was the most decorated one in the conference coming back.
Yeah.
Weird season, man. And you can't ever account really for coaching changes, right? And what that means you just assume, okay, new coach, but they got a really good quarterback and some players. This should be seamless. And look at Miami, man. And then look at Virginia. Like, it isn't always. When you're changing systems, sometimes it's hard, man. Like, I know it's not quite the same, but look at Francois in 16 and Francois in 18. Completely different player, man. Sometimes the system just isn't a match. It doesn't make sense. They haven't been running it a long time, and they really struggle. And, yeah, man, Boston College is one of the worst offenses. Boston College is 114 in the country. Virginia Tech is 115. Virginia's 123 and Georgia Tech is 125. Come on, ACC. We got to be better than this now.
I thought we're the cradle of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on, buddy. I don't know what's going on.
Would you rather go Holiday Bowl December 28th, San Diego, or Cheez-It Bowl, Orlando, December 29th, or Duke's Mayo Bowl December 30th, Charlotte?
Oh, I'd rather do the Orlando. It'd be the Orlando or San Diego because the weather's better.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't want to be in Charlotte around New Year's.
Yeah, right now the projection's got NC State playing the Duke's Mayo Bowl, and I think when all is said and done, we'll probably have a better record than they will, conference-wise too, I think.
Well, you hope, man. If you win 4 of these next 5, you should be 8-4. There's really no win. Again, I wrote about it. We've talked about it. We'll continue to talk about it. When you look how this schedule plays out with what Miami has with their backup quarterback and just the way they played overall, the way Florida has looked defensively, Louisiana sprinkled in there, and then this god-awful Georgia Tech offense at home after a bye. There's really no reason not to. You're going to be favored in 4 of these games. There's really no reason. Like, it's almost like, to me, the floor is 4 wins out of these next 5. Not like that's the worst they can do. That's the worst they should do without drawing some real animosity. Like, if they go 3-2 or 2-3 with this 5-game stretch, that is a really, really bad sign about the direction of this program. And my 2-3, I should say, is a really bad stretch.
Yes. 3-2 you can live with as long as one of them is not floored. I think it'd be a really tough pill to swallow, as bad as Miami is. And I don't even know how Florida might come off the bye week and look like gangbusters against Georgia, and we might be like, uh-oh. But, man, again, it's like that. It's the last game. It's at home. If you're like 7-4 going into that game, then you end up 8-4. You could be 8-4 beating them, and you end up 7-5. You lose to them. Maybe they've got some recruiting momentum. That game obviously just carries so much weight. Much weight.
Yep.
Meanwhile,
1 game at a time, though, Aslan.
Yeah,
One game at a time.
A&M penciled in for the Birmingham Bowl against Georgia Southern.
Oh.
I was going to say, who's had the saddest fall from grace that's won a BCS national title? I mean, it might be Jimbo, but then I always remember about Les Miles going to Kansas and just being like a general weight on.
I actually went over just to do it. I went over on a free Texas A&M message board just to gander at the thoughts, and they're not all that happy, and their thoughts are what we all think is like they want him desperately to get himself an offensive coordinator, and somebody will come back in and say there's no chance. He's not going to do it. He's not going to do it because he'd have to step back, and he's not the kind of guy that's going to step back. So, and it was not. I don't know what those kids did in the locker room to be suspended.
I think they're all freshmen, right? I mean,
yes, they were. Yeah, and 2 of them were playing. Like 2 of them were 5-stars. Another was a 4-star. One of the 5-stars and one of the 4-stars was actually starting to play a good bit. And then they got busted for something in the locker room and are suspended indefinitely, which is, again, it's not a good – it kind of reminds me of when – and we'll see if it works out like this for A&M. It would surprise me at this point. But, like, after the loss to Wake Forest in 2011, which was their 3rd loss in a row, it was a gross loss, and then Florida State players were still on Twitter back then. They could respond, and it got really ugly on Twitter with people tweeting, with students tweeting it, like Greg Reed and people like that, and Greg Reed tweeting back. And that was a really ugly kind of down moment, and like there seemed like there was real turmoil in the program. And then, obviously things ended up working out there after that. But that was year 2 of Jimbo, not year 5. I think that's the difference. And some people on those message boards were thinking, man, that they're really worried about what the portal is going to look like in 6 weeks.
I'd be less worried about that and kids talking, man. Like, you start suspending these kids that are on the payroll. I know their first inclination might be able to go into the transfer portal, but maybe they strike back and like, hey, man, maybe people in Indianapolis want to know why my mom's driving a Lexus now and why.
I mean, sure, because kids do dumb things all the time, but that's not a great way to go find a good home.
That's
when
true.
You leave A&M. If you ever want to play football again, you don't need to be biting the hand that gave you $1 million, because you're going to want more money from when you go to the next school, and they're not going to give you any money if you do that.
Yeah.
That's just me. That's a Georgia fan remembering the basketball program getting suspended because Jim Herrick Jr. was such an idiot and literally wrote Tony Cole.
Personal
he
checks,
gave him,
right?
But they were checks. They were like traveler's checks or something. They were something so goofy. Like there was a legitimate paper trail for this horrible recruit that never was any good, that went to 4 different schools, and he got Georgia put on probation when they're actually good at basketball because Jim Herrick Jr. didn't just give them cash, gave them checks, like actual checks from his checkbook.
Incredible. Sprint over to warchant.com. Post your question in the thread. Renegade Express will take those. That'll be the Thursday show. Then we will be live Thursday night, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock. What are you thinking, Corey?
I'm thinking 6 right now, but we'll see. We'll see. I'm thinking 6. We might pivot, but right now I want to pencil in 6 o'clock.
Okay. Thursday night live show, YouTube. Corey and I taking your questions as well. So we'll get to hear from all the people on these programs. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 3 o'clock. We'll be back out at practice Wednesday morning. Check out warchant.com for full updates. video, interviews, observations. It's only $10, everybody.
Yep.
$10. It's less than 3 cents a day.
Get on there.
For a whole year of Corey's columns, a whole year of Iris 321, a whole year of recruiting. It's incredible. $10. $10. I spent $8.07 on 18 eggs a week and a half ago. That only lasted me 6 days.
Wow, you're an egg man, huh?
3 eggs every single day, Corey. 3 eggs.
That's your protein, huh?
It is. In the morning.
So
I need my breakfast.
I think that's what I'm going to start doing because I don't, I'm trying to build a little mass with all these new muscles I have. And I feel like eggs is the way to go, right? For the best protein source.
Yeah. And they're the easiest, the most easily digestible of all the proteins out there for you, man. Just
okay.
Egg whites, man.
How do you eat them?
Man, I just scramble. I scramble egg whites with a little bit of shredded cheddar cheese in there. Then on the weekends I'll go with some over easy eggs and I'll put them on a piece of toast with avocado. But otherwise, Monday through Friday, just 3 scrambled egg whites, 3 extra large scrambled egg whites, a little bit of shredded cheddar cheese in there, piece of toast, half an avocado. I like it. It's simple.
All right, man. I'm going to be swole.
That's what we're
I'm
trying
going to look
do,
like Ben Stiller in Tropic Thunder.
All right, now we're talking.
I'm going to be shredded.
I like it. Yeah, stay connected to warchant.com. Again, $10 entire year. I just got eggs for 6 days for $10 pretty much. So who's winning, everybody? Hopefully you are. Stay connected with us. We'll be back. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Corner Pocket Bar and Grill.